Thank you so much for joining us today for this call. I'm Beatrice and I'm part of the Global Wellness Institute team. We also have Susie Ellis and Nancy Davis on. The two of them, they run our organization. The call today is a Global Wellness Institute collaboration call, and it's hosted by the Exploring Salt Halotherapy Initiative. And the topic is, how can spas offer respiratory health and immune system support? I'm delighted to introduce the moderator of the call to you. It's Steve Spiro, and he heads up this important initiative for our organization. Thank you so much, Steve, for organizing the call today. And yeah, as I mentioned, we have over 400 people that RSVP'd from 59 different countries. And we're already over 100 people, and I'm sure a lot more will join during the call. So over to you, Steve. I already unmuted you.
Right. Thanks, Beatrice. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're from. As Beatrice said, I'm Spiro. Hello. I'm the CEO of Halotherapy Solutions and also the chairman of the Global Wellness Institute, Exploring Salt and Halotherapy. It's really a timely subject right now, respiratory wellness. So I really want to thank Susie, Nancy, and Beatrice for letting our initiative speak today. I think it's going to be very educational for everybody. I also want to thank all the people from the 59 countries that are attending. So thank you very much. As we all know, we've been all hit very hard by COVID-19, both personally and business-wise. I know many of you. I have never met a smarter, more creative, and more resilient group of people than the people in the spa business. So I know we're going to get through this. People are going to need us in the spa industry more than ever. I tried a massage by Zoom the other day, and let's say virtual neck touching didn't help my knots go away. So people will be coming back, and it's time to fight back against COVID-19. And that's what we're going to talk about today in the educational summary in the webinar. Just a little background on me that I think is relevant to today and where we're going forward. About 25 years ago, I was sitting in the living room of a techie friend of mine in New Jersey, and he was telling me about this new thing called the internet. He said it was going to be big. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was going to be big or not. But we brainstormed for months and months and months. And he said, let's create a revolution. Let's try to create an environment where there's digital, audio, and education sent to different devices over the internet. And at the time, there was no digital audio, there was no devices, and basically the internet was 14.4, 20.8 AOL modems. It was not really a thing. 10 years later, we were super successful. The name of the company was audible.com. We sold it to Amazon, and we really created a revolution around the world to bring digital audio to people literally everywhere. And even now when I travel and people know about it, I smile back to think about the revolution we just had a dream about literally 25 years ago. I think right now we're at another stage where we can have another revolution. I am passionate and want to work with you guys to help people breathe better all over the world naturally. There's 8 billion people out there that are having breathing issues right now, whether it's due to COVID, air pollution, asthma, allergies, or just want to boost their immune system. We want to teach you today how we can make you part of that revolution. We have an incredible lineup of people today. Starting off is going to be Amy McDonald. Many of you know her. She's been in the wellness industry as a consultant for over 25 years. She's going to talk about how spas can really benefit from halotherapy and respiratory wellness going forward. We then have Lisa Semerly, who owns her own halotherapy center for 5 years. And she also works for me as my head of sales and business development. She's going to talk about the history and the benefits of it. Dr. Cinder Hollenbeck is the executive director of the World Halotherapy Association, the main trade association in our industry. She's going to talk about some recent scientific studies, evidence-based, that she's done. Next up is going to be Kathleen Slonager. She's the executive director of the Michigan chapter of the Asthma Allergy Foundation. And last but not least, my friend, Dr. Raleigh Duncan, who's the chairman of the Clearlight Infrared Sauna Company. And he'll talk about the benefits of infrared sauna and the new synergy with halotherapy. So Amy, let's get this revolution going. You're up, unmute, and let's go.
Thank you, Steve, so much. And obviously, thank you, everybody at GWI also. So I'm Amy McDonald. I'm the CEO of Under a Tree. We're a global wellness consulting firm, although I am currently in Canada. The company's based in the US. And I've had really the pleasure of working with Steve for the last several years, really looking at business development, but also in how halotherapy could, be adjusted and modified to really be able to be relevant and unique, and obviously bring a lot of value to businesses, all the different types of spa and wellness businesses. So it's been really a pleasure. When he first approached me, I really didn't know what halotherapy was. And one of our greatest obstacles and opportunities has really been to educate people that halotherapy is not necessarily just a beautiful salt room. I think that there's been a lot of misperception about what halotherapy is. And so, for us, and you're going to learn a lot more from people far smarter than I am on the phone. But the one piece, the obstacle for me as I went out into the market to talk to my spa clients was really about the fact that halotherapy, and in order to get the health benefits, it requires a halo generator. And the halo generator is what actually breaks down the medical grade salt into fine enough particles that it can be inhaled. And so obviously a salt room with a halo generator is wonderful. But the piece for us was really to look at what did the spa industry need? And I'm talking prior to COVID-19. And so early on, several years ago, we really realized that it was important for businesses to have a piece of equipment that was evidence-based, that was relevant to the current needs of really the global population as far as respiratory health, but also pieces of equipment that didn't require labor. We all know, as being operators, that labor costs all over the world can really be an issue for spa businesses. And so over the last couple of years, and in conjunction with Dr. Raleigh Duncan, who's also going to be on the phone, Steve was able to design a combination of booths. And one of the booths, which is going to be talked about later, is a combination of halotherapy and infrared. And so it's been this real journey of educating myself, educating my clients, really educating the industry on the relevance of halotherapy. And so now as we look at COVID-19, obviously, right, we're looking at the importance and criticalness of being able to offer our residents in our businesses, our members, our hotel clients, an opportunity to be able to support, improve, and or maintain their upper respiratory, their respiratory health, hygiene, but also be able to really improve their immune system. So I just wanted to, speak a little bit about some of the opportunities over the last few years I have had to be able to bring halotherapy to different business models. We've had lots of requests for salt room conversions where they had a salt room that was really beautiful, but they wanted to bring a halo generator in to be able to ensure that it has all the relevant health benefits. We also have had quite a few clients that wanted to remove their steam sauna and be able to put in something that had a lot of health benefits, was easier to maintain, and was of great value. And so we were able to design either custom design or actually be able to put a booth in to replace a current steam sauna. We've also been able to, especially in particular in Hong Kong, we worked closely with the Mandarin there because of the air pollution. They were really looking for respiratory packages that they could put together for not only their hotel guests, but also for the community and for their members. And so they were brilliant in that they put together a whole detox suite that had the halotherapy infrared booth, but they also put together pre and post services that really worked on opening up the lungs, improving circulation, and then obviously working very closely with people to learn how to breathe better. And so that was really a great success early on when we were first launching this combination of the booth and the infrared. Some of the other opportunities we've had, we're currently working with the Carillon in Miami, And what's been so exciting for us with them is that they have a residential component, they have a strong membership component, and even right now, while some of the offerings are obviously closed, they're able to offer halotherapy to their residents and members in a closed, private, secure, hygienic environment to be able to help these people during a time where obviously they can't get their regular spa services. We also worked with the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess and worked with them on a whole kind of recovery circuit that they have, including, you know, IV therapy and some other types of things to really support the immune system. And so the Halo infrared combination has been excellent in being able to be a part of that whole recovery process for their business. So there's lots of different ways to bring halotherapy in and meet your guests and your different types of guests based on your business model that are really relevant. One other opportunity that we see and we think will continue once fitness centers all over the world start to open again is being able to offer halotherapy and ideally infrared as well in fitness clubs as well. So, you know, we're excited to see the implications, to see the diversity and also the, you know, the direct health benefits to halotherapy and infrared. So I really just wanted to thank everyone. It's quite touching to know that so many people are on the call today, and I know we are all very focused on what we can do to support ourselves, our families, and obviously also our businesses also. So thank you.
Good morning. This is Lisa Semerly. I'm assuming I am next. I was a pharmaceuticals and spent a decade speaking with respiratory specialists. And as Steve mentioned, I owned a medical spa in East Lansing, Michigan for about 5 years before coming on board with HSL. So coming from a pharmaceutical background, I really understood the gaps that existed with drug therapy and knew halotherapy could help fill those gaps. So what exactly is halotherapy? Amy, talked a little bit about it. It's also known as dry salt therapy, and it's an all-natural approach to healing with a 75 to 95% efficacy rate. And children tend to do a little bit better on that spectrum. It's pharmaceutical-grade salt that's microparticled and dispersed into an enclosed environment like a room or bed or booth through a state-of-the-art generator. Halotherapy helps to draw out the moisture and mucus and impurities, and it kills microbials and helps with inflammation both in the airway and on the skin. The therapeutic effect of the microclimate of caves has been known since ancient times. So in 1839, Dr. Felix Bukowski opened the first facility in Poland, and in the 1940s, halotherapy was born in the medical environment in Russia. They developed the technology for replicating the conditions of the salt caves in mines and were found to have beneficial effects on the respiratory system and eventually the skin. Salt therapy was established in clinical settings such as health facilities and hospitals and soon emerged in more commercial settings outside of Russia in the 1990s throughout Europe. The only salt that we use for dry salt therapy in the Halo generator is pharmaceutical grade. It's pure sodium chloride and does not contain any additives. Other salt has trace elements and minerals that when ground into microparticles and reach deep into the respiratory tract could cause some adverse reactions. So as Amy mentioned, it's not Himalayan salt or pink salt or sea salt. While those types of salts are great and have some nice benefits, they should not be breathed into the airway. So why halotherapy? Well, it's one of the fastest growing industries with the shift towards more natural remedies versus pharmaceuticals. There's no special certification or licensing that's required. The target audience is like 99% of the population, so it's really not a niche market, especially in today's environment with much more concern over respiratory health and hygiene. Halotherapy helps to control the symptoms of respiratory, such as asthma, allergies, COPD, cystic fibrosis, cold, flu, sinusitis, really any respiratory condition, but it also helps with the skin, such as acne, dermatitis, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, and I've seen some of the most remarkable changes with skin in my facility over 5 years. It helps athletes by increasing and strengthening lung function and that oxygen saturation and recovery, and it helps to improve immune health. It's profitable, there's no added labor costs, and there's an accelerated return on investment. And as I said, your target audience is pretty much everyone. According to Spa Finder and other industry experts, halotherapy continues to be one of the top 5 fastest growing trends. And there's been a noticeable increase in interest in halotherapy since COVID-19. I honestly speak to several people a day opening up wellness facilities, wanting to offer halotherapy, and just the noise and interest right now is really greater than ever. As an industry, it's still in its early stages of growth in North America. However, it's a well-established therapy in many other countries. It's safe and effective, it's all natural, and it's backed by 50 years of science. So why is halotherapy becoming so popular? Well, respiratory illness is a chronic and growing epidemic. Our world is becoming more and more toxic every day, and as a result, more people are experiencing a declining quality of health. 1 in 4 Americans have some form of skin disease or condition, and folks are just looking for an all-natural treatment to limit or minimize the use of pharmaceuticals, which we know have lots of side effects and things like that. Halotherapy helps with stress reduction, respiratory cleanse, and an overall improved immune response. It helps enhance athletic performance, and it's great for detoxifying. It's a complete detox of the skin and the lungs. And as I said, there's never been more concern about improving one's respiratory health and engaging in regular respiratory hygiene. Halotherapy will help to strengthen the immune response and may provide some protection against infection and help to reduce the length and the severity of symptoms. In the respiratory, it helps because it's antimicrobial and antibacterial. It helps to draw the impurities out of the airway, both upper and lower. It stimulates the body's internal processes for cleansing and removing buildup of foreign particles. It's anti-inflammatory. It opens up the bronchial tubes in the lungs and distal airways, and it reduces inflammation in the sinuses and throughout the airway. It strengthens respiratory function, breaks up and clears mucus, and really just helps with the skin condition by naturally triggering skin's microcirculation and membrane activity. It enhances skin's protective and reparative properties and kills contaminants and helps with inflammation of the skin as well. And as I said, 1 in 4 people in the United States have a skin condition. For athletes, it can enhance athletic performance by expanding the airway for increased lung function. And it increases oxygen saturation in the exchange of oxygen. It helps with muscle endurance and recovery. So overall, it strengthens the abdominal wall muscles for increased lung capacity and oxygenation, and helps to ease muscle and joint pains. So that's sort of a background on halotherapy, what it does, and why it's becoming much more popular in today's society. And with that, I will turn it over to our next speaker.
All right, I guess that would be me. Hi, everybody. This is Kathleen Slonager. As Steve had mentioned, I'm the director of the Asthma Allergy Foundation of America, the Michigan chapter, but I'm also a board certified classical homeopath, and I'm here in Michigan. I wanted to say thank you to GWI for putting this together. When I was introduced to halotherapy a few years ago by Lisa, I found it to be a very curious thing. I hadn't really heard of it. And so as I did my own research and learned more about it, it became quite impactful for my own life, as well as being able to work with other folks and let them know the benefit that they could be adding this kind of therapy to their practice or their spa. Just a little background on myself. I've been in healthcare for about 25 years in various capacities. I'm a registered nurse and certified asthma educator, as well as board certified homeopath. I consult with a lot of public health agencies, health and wellness organizations, environmental organizations, as well as halotherapy solutions. And curiously, as a homeopath, if anybody's familiar with homeopathy, one of our largest remedies is actually Natrum muriaticum, which is salt. So it's been used well over 200 years with really great efficacy. And so it was a nice affinity for me to know that one of our big remedies is what halotherapy is all about. And just a reminder, everything that we're talking about today, remember, it's for educational purposes. It's for knowledge and improving our own wisdom about these things. If anybody has questions about their health, they need to talk with their doctor. But we know the good work that halotherapy can do, so we enjoy sharing the information with you. As Lisa had talked about, one of the great things about halotherapy is its benefit for asthma and allergies. And so as the director of the Asthma Allergy Foundation, it was really important for me to learn the efficacy of halotherapy, because I didn't want to recommend it to people without really having a good knowledge base. And in this country, in the US, asthma and allergies are just rampant. About 76 million people are affected by them. And the annual costs of taking care of just asthma in this country exceeds $82 billion. And a lot of those costs are because of uncontrolled asthma, uncontrolled allergies. So again, if we can help people get better control through something as wonderfully simplistic as halotherapy, boy, we're going to save a ton of money. Now, my job today is to also tie in for everybody the idea about inflammation and autoimmunity. Asthma and allergies are an chronic disease of the immune system, just like lupus and diabetes and celiac and psoriasis and arthritis. These are all autoimmune diseases. An autoimmune, just in case you don't know, is a hyper response of the immune system. And there's a variety of triggers and reasons why that happens. But I always like to remind people, if you think about it this way, everything that we eat, drink, touch, smell, and inject into our bodies is going to affect your immune system for good or for bad. Over 50 million Americans have some kind of autoimmune dysfunction. And unfortunately, our children are suffering at higher numbers. Right now, more than half the children in this country are affected by some kind of chronic disease. When we were young, that just didn't happen, right? If you remember, if you think back. So another good reason we need to really get the benefit of something like halotherapy. Now, autoimmune diseases, back to that, there are over 100 different types of autoimmune diseases, and they affect every system of the body: the brain, the heart, the skin, the GI tract. An autoimmune disease, believe it or not, starts with inflammation. Some kind of inflammatory response in the body at a cellular level. So if we know that something as wonderful as salt therapy is anti-inflammatory, we really need to build up the awareness in the consumers that this is something they need to be tapping into. Now, immune system dysfunction usually begins, like I said, with the inflammatory response. And I have a chart that I usually like to present at some point, because it shows how inflammation affects every system in our bodies. In the brain, we have pro-cytokines that happen from that hyper response, that inflammatory response. And these pro-cytokines lead to autism and Alzheimer's and MS and other kinds of neurological issues. In the cardiovascular system, heart disease, stroke, increased blood sugar leading to diabetes, anemia, all those are caused by inflammation. In the lungs, like Lisa mentioned, we have the swelling in the airway leading to allergies and other respiratory problems like COPD. And the kidneys, again, the cytokines restrict blood flow leading to hypertension and kidney disease. I've mentioned cytokines several times, and what are we hearing about right now in the science going on with COVID-19 is that there's a lot of issues around cytokine storms happening. So that's a very interesting tie-in. So we know that salt is anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, hyposensitizing. And that's what the autoimmune issues are all about, is a hyperness of the immune system. So we can help calm everything down using salt therapy. And there's been a lot of studies done. When I go on Scholar Google and I type in halotherapy, over 550 studies pop up. And if you type in salt therapy, over 2 million studies come up. But a couple that were done just recently that I found to be most helpful, tying in the whole idea about inflammation, autoimmunity. One was done in 2018 and it was in Scientifica magazine. And it talked about the benefits and risk of salt therapy, pointing out the benefit of the anti-inflammatory response. And there was another one done in the Journal of Medicine and Life back in 2014, and it was pointing out the therapeutic use of halotherapy and had a very good report on the benefit and of anti-inflammatory work that salt therapy can do. So yes, halotherapy definitely is something that will mitigate what is going on in our world today with our immune systems. And especially now with the respiratory illnesses that are happening in the COVID-19, I think there's a great opportunity for you to help so many people. And just think about it, like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, $82 billion go to take care of asthma and allergies. So imagine how much billions of dollars are going for taking care of lupus and heart disease and cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So we have an opportunity not only to help people feel better and improve their health, but save healthcare, precious, precious healthcare dollars. So think about that as you're working toward marketing your facilities, that these are great ideas to put out there for the consumers. I'm finished now, and I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Raleigh, and hopefully we'll hear some more good information. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for being here, taking the time to listen to something that I think has a potential to help so many people. I look at where we are now as a world as it's a watershed moment. We have so many people that are looking to their own health, wanting to boost their immune system, because really right now, Western medicine can't help us. So we have to go back to the old ways. Salt therapy is one of those ways. And so I think it's never going to be the same from here on out. So let me tell you a little about me. My name is Raleigh Duncan. I'm a chiropractor and I'm founder of Clearlight Infrared Saunas that I founded about 24 years ago. And it came after a discovery that I made that I didn't know at the time was going to change my life and change people all over the world. And that was this infrared technology. And briefly, everyone's familiar with the sauna, but infrared saunas, if you haven't been in one, use infrared heaters in the walls to heat the body, and it keeps the air temperature comfortable to breathe. So that's usually what people say. I don't go in the sauna, it's so hot, I have to put a towel over my face. So it goes into the body, penetrates into the soft tissue. So it's much different, it's more therapeutic. And so we've been working with Halotherapy Solutions, Steve and all the good people over there, and building cabins, rooms for salt therapy and combining infrared together. So we have a whole line. So that's our part in it. But I wanted to talk today a little about infrared and what it does, and more than that, just the benefits I can go over. There's so many, I don't even list them all because people stop believing you, but there's so much information and research that's been done over the past 20 years. But when you combine it with the halotherapy, it's really it's so powerful. So briefly, how the infrared works, it comes into the body and penetrates into the soft tissue. And the way that I design our saunas and have been doing and progressing and understanding how to heal the human body, we place our heaters all around you. That's the general idea. So when the infrared comes into the body, we get what is called a global vasodilation. So vasodilation is just a fancy word for blood vessels opening up. But when you do it, and when I was a chiropractor, if you came into my office and said, "Doc, this shoulder, it's been painful, chronic for a long time, it's tight," I might use infrared as one of the therapies to put on there, because in that vasodilation, it reduces pain, it increases range of motion, and basically helps the tissue to heal, because the blood vessels open up and the blood rushes in, takes the bad stuff out, the toxins, and helps in inflammation. But in the infrared sauna, when we do this globally, what happens is that now I'm opening up the blood vessels in your entire body, on the sides, the front, behind you, your legs, everywhere. And when that happens, the blood pressure in your body drops. Now, the body's very smart. I always start with that premise that the body is so much smarter than we are. And in this global vasodilation, the body goes, "Oh no, blood pressure's going down, help, help." So it just start to pump the blood in the heart. Now you have this oxygenated blood flowing through your body. And in a little while, you can even get your heart up to what you would get in a working heart rate when you're working out. But at the same time, this vasodilation causes a parasympathetic action, puts you in a very relaxed state. So it's this combination of thermotherapy, which has a lot of advantages for inflammation and oxidative stress. It reduces that. But we're also burning calories and putting oxygenated blood around. So how does this relate to where we are now? Well, one of the other benefits, it was Hippocrates that said, "Give me a fever and I can cure any disease." So that's exactly one of the things that we're doing. When you sit in the infrared sauna, we're actually going to raise your core body temperature a degree or two. And when that happens, your immune system gets a boost. That's all to the good. We all want a strengthened immune system. Your metabolism will get a boost as that blood is flowing around in your body. And you're going to reduce pain anywhere that you have pain in your body, muscular pain. You're going to increase your range of motion. You're going to reduce inflammation, like I said. Mostly what people tell us is that their sleep patterns get better right off the bat, that their skin is softer. And these are just some of the things that happen. And in that blood moving around, it takes energy to sweat and to move that blood around and have the heart rate going. So an average session can burn up to 400 to 500 calories. So we get weight loss in there. And that has a lot to do with HGH is released in the body. And so a lot of things are happening. Nitric oxide is released. So this is something that people are really looking for. And we were shocked when this all hit. You don't know what's going to happen in your business. Last month, our business was up 59% over that same month last year. And that's because people are looking, they're just so desperate to find a therapy, to find something that can help them to strengthen their whole entire system and increase their health. And so how that relates to the spa industry is that if we can move things around and make people feel safe enough to come back, they're going to be looking with a tremendous amount of gusto of what can I do? So I think it's going to be a new world when we come out of this. It's a new world now, but we have to get people back because people need this and they want it. So how does this relate to halotherapy? That's the infrared part. And like I said, we have a great working partnership with Halotherapy Solutions, Steve, and all the good people there, Amy and Lisa. And so we're building or have built and have a whole line of cabins. Some have infrared in it, some don't, for commercial and also for personal use. So in that synergy, so you're in the sauna, the infrared sauna, you have the blood moving around and you're in a relaxed state, and it's just the perfect time to introduce halotherapy and to introduce salt into your lungs. And I've known about halotherapy for over 20 years because in Europe, 20 years ago, they were putting halotherapy in saunas. So it's it's really nothing new under the sun. The history goes back a long time. I can remember as a kid, my dad would say when we had a sore throat to gargle with salt water. Well, why is that? Because when the salt comes in, it will actually go to the bacteria, and that osmotic gradient will pull the liquid out from the bacteria cell, and it kills the bacteria in that way. So it's very simple, very direct. It's an old time remedy that has come full force. So there's tremendous synergy between infrared saunas and halotherapy. So we're so happy to be working with Steve and everyone, and thank you all for your time, and look forward to any questions that come out, and I'll pass it back to Steve.
Thanks, Raleigh. That was great. Dr. Cindy, we kind of changed the order around unintentionally. If you're still there, please unmute yourself, and let's do you're the last speaker.
I think she might not be on.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's. She was going to call in, I think, but that's okay. So, Beatrice, I will throw it back to you then. And if people have any questions now, I saw a bunch of chat questions. Also, if we can't answer all the questions today, you can email me at steve@halotherapysolutions.com. But I really hope this was very beneficial to everybody. I always learn something listening to these experts. So please ask the questions.
And Steve, I was taking notes and gathered a bunch of questions that that I think might be relevant. Do you want me to start with some of the questions that came up in the chat?
Sure, and whoever feels most comfortable answering it can answer it. So yes.
So one of these was from Elizabeth, who's in Fort Myers, Florida, and she was asking about her specific platform is in holistic care and support for opiate-addicted pregnant women. And she just wanted to understand the safety and efficacy of this particular patient population.
Lisa, do you want to try that? I don't know if you've had any experience with that in your center.
And not really. I don't know that I'm the best person equipped. Obviously, anybody that's pregnant should consult with their physician before using halotherapy.
Another question was, how widely is salt therapy known or used in Asia? Aside from obviously I used the example of the Mandarin in Hong Kong. So I was wondering, Steve and Raleigh, if you might be able to answer that question.
Yeah, I can answer that question since I've been living there the last 18 months, trying to get halotherapy throughout Asia. It's really interesting. You would think Asia would be one of the best places for halotherapy, given seriously, literally the bad air pollution and the people that like natural therapies. For some reason, the governments in almost all the countries have incredibly strict regulations against halotherapy. And once we kind of go through giving them a lot of money, then we get approved. But so Asia's been very, very difficult, whereas Australia, for example, is booming right now. So, but the other Asian countries, frankly, have been pretty tough. But we think now with the COVID-19, we have 2 distributors in China now, in Hong Kong. They're starting to get a lot of leads all of a sudden, and we got past those government regulations. So, and we've been talking to large resorts in Bali and Thailand and Vietnam. So we're starting to see penetration there, but it's been slow, frankly.
Another question that came in, which I thought actually was interesting, and I don't know, Steve, you may want to respond to this, is someone who just came up with a phone number, has been doing salt therapy with warm salt poultice, and wanting to know if that is sufficient to deliver what we want the guest to benefit from the essence of salt. They don't have enough space, but are wondering whether or not, a warm salt poultice is going to have any kind of health benefits.
Okay, Lisa, do you know, I don't know what that word is, Amy, salt poultice, how do you spell poultice?
Poultices are typically like an herbal remedy, and they're in cloth. They're usually heated. They're often used in lots of Asian parts of the world.
So again,
okay. I was going to say a great question for Kathleen.
Yeah, so I unmuted myself because I was going to jump in there. So anytime you put something topically, it's going to have some benefit, but the inhalation is systemic. And when you do topically, it's pretty much limited to that area. So you'd much more want a systemic response through inhalation.
Another question that I'm seeing is there a list of providers, centers, spas in the US that provide halotherapy? And I think obviously, Steve, I believe on your website, you have a list of different providers that
We don't currently have it on the site, but we can provide it to anybody. So again, just email me at steve@halotherapysolutions.com. Or frankly, if you're in a particular area, say you're in Denver, you can just Google halotherapy in Denver and a whole list will come up too.
There's two questions here, Steve, that I think are really great. One of them is about how, Raleigh, Steve, you would suggest disinfecting sauna between sessions. And I know you've got some solutions to that.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So we are just coming out, we're at prototype phase with a very, very strong UV disinfecting wand. We should have my hands on the first one this week. And then we're going into production. We're making it actually in Southern California, but it's very strong. We tested it and it will kill Ebola at 6 inches in a second. So we're going to be putting those out for disinfecting in between people for the saunas. Now, when the sauna gets up to a certain heat, and I've seen different temperatures stated, the sauna will kill bacteria and different things in it, but we think you just have to make certain. So up until this point, people have been using hydrogen peroxide, things of that nature, but we think this will be better.
And Raleigh, if people want to order that,
well, they can go to our website. We're infraredsauna.com.
One of the other questions is about easy access to the medical grade salt that's required for halotherapy. Do one of you two fine gentlemen want to discuss that?
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, so it's very widely available and it's very inexpensive. The two companies that we use, that we work with, that have lots and tons of pharmaceutical salt are our friends at Touch America. Many of you know Stuart Griffith and Ann Brown, who's actually my vice chair, as well as Himalayan Salt Cart in New Jersey. So those two have the best quality, pure pharmaceutical salt, best prices and best delivery and best service.
Amy and Steve, thank you. This is Susie. I just wanted to jump in. First of all, thank you. It was great to hear from so many different people, and I'm definitely learning a lot. I have a couple of questions, and I wanted to suggest that maybe you also open it up for other people who are on the call. They can unmute and maybe contribute. One is, I'd love to hear some stories about what has, you know, some stories of people who've had regular sessions, and I don't even know what a regular session is. Is it, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Is it once a week? Is it, you know, more? And what has happened? You know, what has been their benefit? And then the other thing is, and this goes back to the Global Wellness Institute being very, you know, agnostic. We want to encourage, because we feel, and we have learned this in other initiatives, that encouraging salt and halotherapy in general helps everyone. So if there's other companies on the call that maybe could also contribute what they have learned, are their sales up? What is resonating with consumers? You know, that might be interesting also. And by the way, all of the information that you're saying, like Amy, somebody was asking about the source for the pharmaceutical salt. We'll put that in a follow-up so that, you know, all those things that are in the chat and so on will be disseminated to everyone. So just wondering if maybe anyone on the call wants to just unmute and contribute some anecdotes or some information that they might have with what they're experiencing.
I can jump in on that one. As a facility owner for 5 years, it was honestly it's so compelling having seen the transformation in people, whether it's a respiratory issue that they had. I had a little boy, Marvin, who came in initially referred to by an allergist actually in the community that really just couldn't help him. He was covered in eczema. I started giving him the free use of the halotherapy booth. He went in with his parents, covered in eczema. And within a few weeks, the little boy was taking baths. He would come in and he would show me his little belly, how his stomach had completely cleared up. I had a woman, Patty, getting married, same thing, horrible eczema on her hands. And she said she had tried everything. She actually sought out halotherapy because she heard it could help. And watching that woman, she came in for 2 weeks every single day before her wedding, and her hands were completely cleared by the time she got married. And she literally had tears in her eyes when she came in to show me her hands. So I think that with skin, it's sort of like a best kept secret. I don't think people realize that it is so beneficial for skin. And just going back to what you were asking about, most sessions are 20 minutes. With skin, it does require a little more sustained use, higher concentrations of salt. But the standard treatment is about 20 minutes. And as we used to say in the asthma business, when you've seen, one asthma case, you've seen one asthma case because everybody's different. So we recommend front loading, whether it's for respiratory or skin, come in 2, 3, 4 times the first 7 to 10 days, really saturate the airway and the skin, and then sort of back off until you find what maintenance looks like for you.
Thank you. I really found it so interesting that you were talking about skin, because I always think about the respiratory, but we know in our world, skin is so important. So that might be something to get more information out about, because that will attract a lot of people. Who else wants to jump in?
I have a question, and that is, how effective and easy is it to do this at home? What can be done? Because I have a son-in-law that I would like to gift this to, has terrible psoriasis and eczema, and his son, my grandson, has it on his arms. And so at a time when we are, sort of home and able to take on something like this, if we, have a big bathroom and the ability to do this, is there a way to do this effectively without a practitioner right now?
Yeah, let me answer that, Nancy. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that Amy was talking about, the Carillon, one of the things they're doing is they're actually launching with us in about 2 weeks a whole series of at-home halotherapy products for their residents. So we will have literally all kinds of products, from the Halo IR, this very small one, to a kind of Halo pod, Halo tent solution. And we're also coming out with a brand new revolutionary thing, a halo generator that can actually fit in your pocket. So we have 3 very exciting new consumer products we're launching in about 2 weeks.
Well, I'm going to say what I never say. Please send me all of the information and be sure to market all of that to me.
Well, you get the special discount too, Nancy,
Thank you very much. Friends and family.
Yeah.
So anybody who's on the call, we still have lots of people, 150. If you go lower left to where your mute button is, right now you are muted, but if you click on it, you will unmute, and then introduce yourself and maybe share an anecdote or your experience with halotherapy.
This is Cheryl Silver from Salt of the Earth. I have a halotherapy center in New York. So actually, I have a question, a little bit of a concern, obviously, when we reopen. Do you have any thoughts on how to address the issue of social distancing, of how to disinfect your salt room? Because clearly that's going to be a concern of people who come in. Our salt room can accommodate 8 to 10 people. I think in the beginning, obviously, we're going to be doing either private sessions or limited numbers of people. But your thoughts on how to cleanse the room, UV light, UV1, UVC, do we disinfect the chairs in between every session, et cetera?
Okay, let me just start off by saying, Lisa, maybe you can give some thoughts on this too. But so Sherry or Cheryl? Sherry. Anyway, Cheryl. On June 2nd at noon Eastern time, and you can contact me, we're putting on an hour webinar for anybody in the salt therapy industry who has a center specifically on health and safety. So we're putting all that information together. So it's noon on June 2nd. And again, you can email me at steve@Halotherapy Solutions to get the invite. Lisa, do you have any comments about social distancing or what some other people are doing? Maybe kind of what Diana had said the other day?
I mean, I think that people are thinking, you know, trying to be strategic thinkers with regard to this, you know, putting partitions up between the chairs in the salt room, obviously spacing the chairs a little bit more. I mean, it's just going to require, you know, obviously the salt itself is antimicrobial. And if you, in the smaller enclosures, add the UV wand as an added layer of protection, I think that may give some people some peace of mind. But the long and short of it is people are just it's going to take some education and, you know, just trying to educate people that they're going to be okay.
Yeah, some of the things that we've heard, just like you said, Cheryl, they're having only 2 or 3 people in the salt room that typically holds 8. They have to do appointments only. They can't really sit around the waiting room. They have to get their temperature checked before they come in. A lot of salt rooms are contacting us now about putting in an inexpensive booth, not the whole Halo IR, just to give people a private option as well. So there's lots of things. I think people will get more and more, feel more and more safe about it soon.
Thank you.
Let's hear from others who are on the call. Just unmute yourself, lower left, contribute. That was a very good question, by the way. And Steve, that was a very good answer. So let's hear from somebody else.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Lee from Drom UK in London. We actually design, supply and install sauna steam rooms and salt inhalation rooms or halotherapy. And we actually have one of the Halo FX generators in our showroom. And we've been encouraging people to come in and just test it out, try it out, trying to get people into understanding what it's all about. And one day I had one of my friends, she rang me up and she said, "Oh, Erin, I don't know what to do. My son, he can't breathe, he hasn't slept, he's got an awful throat, it feels like he's breathing daggers. He was wheezing, he was almost, you know, really, really beside himself and uncontrollable." So I said, "Bring him in, just bring him in." And so she brought him in, and we've got 2 fabulous heated lounges there, summer Huber heated lounges. So they're really nice and comfortable to lie down on. So we put him in there, we put him in for 40 minutes. And he fell asleep after 20 minutes. You could hear him when he came in, he was like, after about 20 minutes, that started to subside. After 40 minutes, he was in a really deep sleep. In the end, we left him in there for 2.5 hours sleeping. He was just so relaxed. So then he went away that afternoon. He was much happier. I mean, I actually had a tear in my eye seeing how happy he was and how relieved he felt that he could breathe again. And then the following day I said, "Look, bring him in again," because he still hadn't slept brilliantly, but he had got some sleep. So bring him in again. Exact same thing the next day, asleep again for a couple of hours on the lounges, and he went away breathing normally. That night, a full night's sleep. And the next day, he even wrote a letter to his mum saying, "Thank you so much, Mum, for taking me to the salt room. I feel so much better." So that was a real heart-touching story for me to see how immediate the impact can be on someone who is suffering something like that. He didn't have any pre-existing conditions or anything, so it was just a really bad attack of a virus. So that was a lovely story.
Thank you for that, Erin. And what is the name of your company?
Drom UK.
Drom UK.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Who else wants to share an anecdote or
Hi,
their
Susie.
experience? Yes, go ahead.
My name's Connie, and I'm from Canberra, Australia, and I'm the owner of the Salt Therapy Clinic and Sanctuary.
Yeah.
I got into this business only recently, just literally before lockdown. I have been a user of salt therapy previously because I'm a chronic eczema and sinusitis sufferer. So on my website, if you guys have a chance to look at, I have clients where he's come with a lot of eczema problems, like from head to toe. So I got him to do 2 consecutive 45-minute sessions for 2 consecutive days, and I've had photos coming up to show a major difference in the inflammation coming down. Obviously it wasn't healed because he's top to bottom, but that was a good testimony in itself. I mean, for myself, it is evidence that it was working, and that's why when the opportunity for me to take over, to buy over a salt cabin, I didn't hesitate to do so. I really wanted to keep the salt therapy modality alive in Canberra. Another thing that you mentioned about skin and about respiratory, one of the things that I always knew growing up, coming from Singapore as a Singaporean Chinese, was that through Chinese medicine, we've always been taught that skin problem is typically a manifestation of some form of lung or respiratory problems. So I had childhood asthma as a kid, and obviously I have very bad sinusitis problem, and I think that's also manifesting in the eczema that I get as well. So something to think about. I think that for people who really want to because skin is a complicated issue, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't really speak for everyone, but I think one of the things to look at is really to do a good respiratory cleanse if someone wants to obviously get their skin health on track. So the only way really to do that is through dry salt therapy. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Connie. And I will just add one more thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Steve, for your final words. The Global Wellness Institute, decided to do an initiative on this topic. And we actually very purposely, and Steve can talk to this too, called it Exploring Salt and Halotherapy Initiative, because we realized, and we're hearing this today too, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of exploration, different things in different countries, but we definitely feel like there's a lot of value. And so I think that really this coronavirus issue has probably been something that is catapulting this to even more of the forefront. So please, look at the Global Wellness Institute website. Steve will bring you in on the different things, evidence and whatever that is on the website that he's providing, because we want this to be a global discussion with all of us that are connected to really get some momentum going in this. Steve, over to you for the final words.
Thank you again. And again, thank you, Susie and Nancy and Beatrice, for believing in the topic 3-4 years ago and for supporting us along the way. And for my team that's all on that, and everybody that's been on the call today, both the expert speakers and all the people attending. As Raleigh said, the infrared business is booming. Our business is booming. Again, let's go kick COVID-19's ass. It's been kicking us business-wise and personally. Let's start the revolution to help people breathe better and help people with their skin. So again, you can reach out to me at steve@halotherapysolutions.com. We're easy and fun to deal with, so just reach out to us. And thanks everybody for attending.
Thank you, Steve and Beatrice. Please unmute everyone so that we can give you all a hand.
For you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Inside or across the street?
Thank you.
Much.
Everybody.
Good information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, von der Mar.
29th May.